Hello everyone, again this is Majbeen Bulaj from Pakistan and you're watching my YouTube channel Insani Itihad, which aims to invoke a little bit of humanity in all of us through awareness and understanding. So we are going to continue from where we left off. I have already told you the Tashkent File actually talks about patriotic Hindus who have done so much for India. Two of them is Pandit Lal Bahadur Shastri. He brokered a very favorable peace agreement and war truce with Pakistan, and the other one is Shabbat Chandra Bose, who actually for some or many of the Indians is a hero because he had very vocal views in regards to let's kick the British out, civil disobedience, and many of you people heard regarding the monument of soldiers, the so-called Indian soldiers who actually participated in the Haifa battle against the Ottomans in World War I. That's a big myth because those soldiers were not Indian soldiers, because in World War I, India, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the subcontinent was under the imperial rule, and those soldiers were British soldiers, not Indian soldiers. And time and again the foreign minister of India and even Modi ji has gone there to pay respect. I don't know how do they get this weird guts to say that they are Indians. In fact, both Gandhi ji, Subhash Chandra Bose, and many of the Congress and Muslim League leaders actually boycotted these very soldiers for participating in an imperialistic war against the colonies who are revolting against the Western colonization or modernization. And these soldiers, their families were threatened and what was the motivation for these soldiers to be part of it? Well, since the British are famous for their paying off and bribing off the loyalties, especially in Afghanistan and subcontinent, they were famous for it. Many of the feudal landlords have accumulated wealth and huge part of lands, huge agricultural lands, thanks to the imperialistic favors, imperialists giving favors to them in terms of giving them agricultural lands and other benefits. Even Sir Shahnawaz Bhutto was awarded a lot of lands by the British, and he was also given the title of Sir Shahnawaz Bhutto, who was the grandfather of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So yeah, these were the perks that were so tempting and motivating for the soldiers to be a part of the British army. And the Haifa battle, and in that Haifa battle, those soldiers were actually British soldiers and not Indian soldiers. Subhash Chandra Bose was a radical Hindu, and he was a most wanted person in that time, and the British army and the British government actually had a warrant for him that if he will come to subcontinent, he will be arrested. He went to different countries. He visited Russia famously. He went to Japan. He even visited Palestine, mandated Palestine. Yes, of course. He had very close ties with the Ottomans. And he was one of the very best friends of the Nazi political leaders. In fact, the swastika that we talk about, the sign of auspiciousness and good luck, was actually handed over by none other than Subhash Chandra Bose. Guess what? I wish Hananya Naftali would know about this, or his Indian, or should I say India girlfriend? Weird. Anyway, so and of course the Aryan race concept Aryan race concept is actually, ironically, is deep rooted in the space and area which we now know as Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, because it's part of the Himalayan range and is close to Himalaya. And by Hindu radicals, it is believed, and especially the Brahmin Pandits of Kashmiri Pandits actually believe that the Aryan race, and what is the Aryan race, is basically a race which has come out into existence in where, you know, the godly gods like Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma have mated, or it is a convergent race of people who are a product of basically demigods. So Parvati is a princess, which is the wife of Shiva. Shiva is a god, supernatural human being. He is also a Mahadev and blah blah blah. So anyway, the birthplace of or existence place of Mahadev is actually the Himalayas, which is in the Kashmir, which touches or is very close to Jammu and Kashmir. So the Brahmin Pandits in Kashmir were there, and since the Kashmiri people are very, very beautiful, ironically, I don't know what is wrong with people when they classify and characterize people in terms of beauty. So anyway, there is this classification of beauty which was carried out by the Germans famously, and it actually is rooted in the Hindu concept as well. The beauty, the concept and everything is that these Kashmiri people were actually Brahmin Hindus, and they were Aryans, and they were forcefully converted into Islam. And these Brahmin Pandits went into that Kashmir valley to actually reconvert them into Hinduism, which actually is ironic for me, because it's a clear threat to the woman, the Muslim woman or Kashmiri woman, because obviously you can't convert a male back to Hinduism, because obviously his penis is circumcised, so you cannot grow back the foreskin. So technically he won't be a Hindu anyway. So basically it's about getting the Muslim woman converted back into the Hindu theology, because that's easier. They don't have the issue of foreskin, luckily us, or shall I say unlucky us. But anyway, so men die off, or they would just be like Aditya Yogi Adityanath. They would just go live a solitude or brahmachari life with their circumcised penis. I don't know, never mentioned that's a very ticking point for a Hindu, especially Indian. And ironically, my sister just pointed out that I'm wearing this orange color, which might feel like, okay, yesterday she was wearing white and green, and now she's wearing this. Unintended it was, but quite a combination. I mean, ironically this happened, but I guess colorifying, or this associating one color to one religion, civilization, is nothing but stupidity. But anyway, though I do think that wearing all white on Yom Kippur and wearing a white dress on the wedding kind of looks nice, because it shows clarity, that we're here to clear our, white represents the enlightenment and clearing of thoughts, and purification of, let's just wipe out our sins and wipe out our old version of us on Yom Kippur and begin our year blank, pure white in this. So is going into Jewish marriage is like, starting a life with your soulmate as a complete human being, and it's a new chapter. So that is the connotation. Otherwise, colorifying a religion, what color do Jews associate themselves? White and blue. Blue is my favorite color, so is white, but I also like black. I'm not very fond of this color, neither green, but yeah, golden, blue, white, black are one of my favorite colors. This was pure coincidence. Actually, it is my dress. So, I mean, yeah, but if you want to feel whatever you feel like, go ahead and do that. Do I care? No, absolutely not. So I just wanted to clear that these were the issues highlighted in the Tashkent Files. Pakistan was actually equal to what Israel actually went through after 6 days war. And ironically, in 1966 January, Pakistan signs this agreement, Tashkent Agreement, and in 1967 there is 6 days war in June. And there, Pakistan is an invisible participant along with Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Russia. And at the forefront are Russia, Jordan, and Egypt, who physically attack Israel. But of course, Lebanon, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Russia were the forces behind in terms of providing military support and military armaments and supplies and whatever. Miraculously, Israel won the war, but yet even being at a favorable position in 1967, occupying all of Gaza, all of West Bank, up till the Jordan River, even taking over the Sinai Peninsula, Israel had to give away land for peace. Exact same situation for Pakistan. Pakistan didn't achieve a single goal and had to let go and go back to the position of August 1965 before the war, and it was a disadvantaged position for Pakistan, and in 67 it was a disadvantaged position for Israel. Luckily and Baruch Hashem, thank God, Israel didn't give away the Jerusalem areas, including insisted on its presence in East Jerusalem, despite the outcry of the Arabs, who were after being the aggressor and then playing victim as well. Anyway, so Israel did had a little bit of favorable outcome, but even then it was a disfavorable situation for Israel. So quite some similarities that which we can draw from these analogies or these theories. Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi ji historically had some issues with East India Company. Now, East India Company was a subsidiary of the Rothschild family actually owned many businesses. East India Company was one of them in British, because they used to have shares of different banks, different investments. How did Rothschild family come to be so influential? One, they accumulated a lot of wealth initially because they were very good at business, but the Europeans, both French, Portuguese, and all other colonialists, didn't allow these influential rich families who had hard cash to buy lands and properties, because they were not entitled to. Anyway, they started lending people money, because that's they had. I mean, if you can't buy or invest in a property or in a land, what do you do with that sort of a money? You start lending them on interest. And this is what the Hindus also did, because interest is very, so they sort of related to them, and they not only related to them, but Jews were now a competition for the Hindu merchants. And this sort of created a sense of competition amongst the Hindu merchants and the Jewish merchants. So these political leaders, who were already pissed off at the imperialists, were more pissed off at the Jewish merchants, because they said that without the Jewish merchants, these imperialists won't be able to function properly. To a certain extent, it can be true, because most of the development, modernization, institutionalization, either in Europe or in the Americas or anywhere in the planet, the source behind that or the force behind it is none other than the Jews. Ironically, all these influential Jews are least religious but way more creative, um, more helping. And I mean, the railways that British and the French had in their own countries and also in their colonies is somewhat thanks to all these Jewish merchant Jewish businessmen who had steel mills, who made these trains, who had big factories, who had money to invest. So the industrialization and the business world owes its progress and owes its success to the Jewish minds, the Jewish convictions, and the Jewish smartness. But the world has this very strange mentality towards Jews. We want your brains, but we still want to kill you, and we still hate you. We also want your brains, and we also want you to work for us and make our lives better, but we don't want you to get rich or influential or have any say in decision making. That's something, it is as if you're asking Elon Musk to be like a Buddha, which is like, don't have any sort of needs or any wants or anything, but we still love your brain, so you do everything for us and make our lives like, these, kings and queen and easy and everything. But in return, you should not ask for anything in return. You should be like Buddha, who doesn't eat, doesn't, it's that sort of a mentality which the world expects from the Jews. Jews, on the other hand, although their contribution in terms of research, in terms of art, culture, science, business, banking, whatnot, were seen as they are taking advantage of. And I never wrap my brains around this whole idea when they're contributing so much to the world, if they are getting benefit in terms of monetary or their lives being much more easier and good, what is wrong with that? I mean, you cannot do the same treatment or have the same treatment for those Gujarati Anil Ambanis and Mukesh Ambanis. I mean, they're rich, they're filthy rich. So what are you going to say? Now, you can't be rich, but you should contribute to the Indian society without being rich. So that's some sort of ideology which the Germans had. Initially, it was rooted here in the subcontinent, because here the Hindu merchants, largely so, also Muslim merchants. I'm not gonna. In fact, I would say the Muslims who migrated from India were the biggest hurdle in recognizing Israel. The MQM, the Urdu-speaking political party, and other parties were the most anti-Israel and radical. And all of a sudden, when they reach in UK and they have this alliance, they pretend to be, oh no, we love Israel, and it's all the feudals who hate Israel. And like I mentioned, and I will mention it again just to provoke people, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's mother was a convert from a Hindu woman, and he was the most radicalized Islamicized leader who pretended to be modern and educated and this and that, but he was the most radicalized Islamist leader of Pakistan. On the contrary, Zia-ul Haq, which is considered to be a very highly religious and radicalized dictator of Pakistan, was actually very pro-West. He helped the US and all the Western forces, including Israel, to break down USSR, which was a big threat for the West, and it actually helped Israel in so many ways, because the wars against Israel, the militant wars against Israel, were majorly decreased after USSR was broken into small parts and countries. So this is how political ideologies and individual grudges and grievances create false propagandas, and then, you know, go on to influence people who are at influential and powerful positions, to create this propaganda for the masses that, you know, all the evil is because of certain community or some people or this, and then they are persecuted. And this was the case which Subhash Chandra Bose provocated in Europe, and people who felt discriminated by the imperialist, and felt that the imperialists, along with some minority Jewish communities, were taking advantage of their resources. And in fact, the real truth was that it was actually the Jews who were contributing towards the societies that they were part of, and towards all these colonies. They were developing them. They were bringing new technologies into those societies, into those colonies. We can associate so much to these Jewish communities, these Jewish scientists who have done so much for the world. So all I'm going to say now is, all I'm going to say right now is, today is Shabbat, so Shabbat Shalom. Watch these two videos, see what you can perceive and how you see this whole thing. Read about it. Don't believe everything that you see and everything which is propagated through media. Even don't believe me. Whatever I said, don't believe it. Cross-verify it, check it, read about it. This word Rothschild is not equal to evilness or badness. I mean, nobody even knows who is the, at least I don't know who the Rothschild family is. But I do know their hotels, their buildings, their businesses, their this and their this. They have contributed so much in Europe, in US, in Israel. They literally have built Tel Aviv from scratch. So have a thinking and questioning and curious mind. Have a blessed Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much. I hope you learned so much from it, from whatever I've said. Thank you. Until next time. Thank you.